So hi everyone, my name is Cindy Mattingly, and we're going to be talking about Empath Superpower. So I was sharing with a couple of the people that were already on the call earlier, just saying the topic is this big, right? It's just, there's so much out there. And I was like, okay, how do I make this experiential and get it to a place where we can have fun with the pieces that we work with in our time together? So I've attempted that. Let's see if I did it, okay? So I've broken it down into 3 parts. The first part is, this is Shannon, yay, she made it. The first part is asking you, what is your strongest intuitive skill? So intuition, right? Clairvoyance, seeing, clairaudience, hearing, clairalliance is the smell, clairgustience is taste, clairsentient is part of our topic today because that means touch, and then claircognizance, which is the clear knowing. You know what you know, don't know how you know it, you just know that this is true. So those are the 6 intuitive skills. What is your strongest skill? So using your paper, write down what you think it is. It can change, right? But I want to really have you be aware of what you think it is. This is an important piece of that because this is part 1. And then part 2, the question in part 2 is, are you an empath? And then I'm going to do the screen share. But let's go back up, and stay with this. What is your strongest suit? So I'm going to use myself as an example because that's, for me. So the very first awareness I had of intuition was clairaudience. I could hear the animals say things, the plants say things. It was coming as though I was hearing words, or someone will talk to me and I hear the undertone of the either emotion or what they didn't say. I hear that. So that's my strongest suit. What's happened over the years with cultivation and awareness and meditation, things like that. Now all 6 of mine are active. And the key piece is whatever your strongest suit is, either the energy comes in through that door, or that suit is the one that helps you develop the strength or the superpower. So that's why the awareness is really important. So I'm just gonna, a show of hands, how many clairvoyance is that your number 1 strength? And then clairaudience, so that's hearing. That's a maybe. Just making sure the signal is, I'm going to turn off my cell phone. There we go. We'll see what that does. So taste, smell, tactile, you feel it in your body. Okay. And then the knowing. Okay. Beautiful. All right. So now let me go to the screen share. Because we're now in part 2. So the question is are you an empath? The classic definition of empath is what I have at this paragraph up here at the top. The word empath describes a person who's extremely sensitive to the energy and of the feelings of others. That's the one, if you look it up, this is what it's going to say. I'm expanding on that, is that an empath absorbs energy from the other person. It becomes a very real, emotional, physical experience. It's a way of reading the environment. I believe that it starts as a survival strategy. And then we're going to talk about why a person becomes an empath and then how to heighten it, that skill set, so that it becomes a superpower, a strength instead of a weakness. So the development of it is, I think of it as like the perfect storm. You're born, I'm born, and you're sensitive. And maybe you don't like tags on your clothing and you find everything itchy. And then you have your favorite t-shirt, jeans, whatever it is, and you want to wear it and wear it and wear it because it's comfortable. So, you know, you're looking at, this is your sensitivity, maybe is the tactile, the touch. All right. Then that's your scenario. You're sensitive and tactile is your thing. Then maybe you have a mother, a father, a aunt, someone who actually teases you about that sensitivity. And because you're sensitive, you take that in, you absorb that energy, and you start becoming maybe insecure about it, or you don't talk about it so much, or every time you have to go over to the aunt's house, you cry, whatever that is. So you can think about this perfect storm starts happening, sensitive, here's your, you know, this particular system in your body, and then someone in your world, your environment, starts creating some kind of setup or chaos within you. So there's the development, the potential for it. And maybe no one stops the person, this aunt, the uncle, the mother, the father. What happens once you've become a little older, usually after the age of, like, say, a couple of years, 2, 3, you start thinking, and notice on this handout, it says energy follows thought. You think, I don't like her. She's picking on me. Anybody who talks or makes fun of me is picking on me. So you start having a thinking pattern around that scenario. So you either decide, because normally the way we all take this kind of activity in our world is you either fight it, you run from it, fight or flight, or you freeze. It freezes inside of you. And maybe you say, okay, I'm going to hide this. I'm going to hide this sensitivity. And so you don't talk about it anymore. So you make a decision and the energy follows the thought. The next place is that how you perceive the teasing, the criticism, the hiding, also puts another layer on top of this. So that you're now looking at it through this idea that if I do A, then there won't be this criticism, there won't be this, or I'll just be more comfortable. And then your interpretation of the whole situation could be that there's something wrong with me. Everyone tells me to toughen up. So those are just scenarios, and I'm just going to stop the share. Okay. And again, what I'm going to do is use myself as an example because it's the best way for me to explain it. So I was always, I was raised on a farm. So we had animals, we had plants, we had all that. And so when I would say something like that, right, they would make fun of me. And super sensitive. And so I'm getting fun made of me. Now, I'm a farm girl. I'm really strong, but my other siblings are 3 6-foot brothers. Now, I can play basketball with them, right? And be a guard, move around much faster than they can do it because they're bigger, but it didn't help me in that scenario, right? So what I had to do, right now I'm thinking, why am I different? There must be something wrong with me. I need to, what's the classic? Toughen up. So then what do? Most people hide it. So best way I could do it, right, is to go to school. I started out in pre-med. I was going to be a doctor. And halfway, I'm doing all the classes. I'm doing fine. But I didn't like the fact that doctors don't spend time with people. I'm a pretty curious person, so I like spending time with people. I'm curious about how that works, and I'm curious about that. So I changed over to being a therapist, and it worked for me because I got to work with the people. I got to satisfy my curiosity. So, it's like, but I was intellectual. Didn't talk about, right, the sensitivity, things like that. So I satisfied my external world. Thank goodness I was relatively smart, right? But I kept it quiet, the sensitivity. Okay. So my perception is if I performed well, here we go, was perfect. How many people think if they're perfect, right, you're perfect, then interpretation, everyone will accept and love me, right? So now I have a strong enough stubbornness that I realize that it's, that's their thing, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt my feelings, right? So you get quiet about it. And as you evolve, and as I have spent more and more time in my own private practice, I've done exactly whatever I wanted to do. And of course, that is to allow that sensitivity to have a voice, right? So that's are you an empath? This is now we're going to involve the first part. So if clairaudience is my strongest suit, and being empathic is supposed to be about your sensory, I'm 99% of the time, this didn't bother me, but I would hear the answers. So I'm still absorbing the energy, but it's coming in through my strongest suit. But as I have allowed more and more expression of the different qualities of intuition, what happens now is when somebody is physically in the room and I'm doing cranial sacral and I get a headache, I know, and I'm moving already into the next part, I know that that's not my headache. What have I done? Absorbed the energy. And we're going to talk about strategies. That'll be the third part. So that's my experience of, are you an empath? How many of you are empaths of some form of absorption of energy, right? You take it in to understand what's going on in the world, but do you know how to let it go? And that can sometimes be the thing that the energy stays within your body, or you don't know why you got to be in a bad mood, or you're, all those things. So I want to see questions. Who's an empath? Everybody? Yeah. I don't know about Cassie and Katrina. Oh, there's Cassie. She says yes. Yeah. So do you see how that development came in as a survival? Because survival isn't black and white. Survival is, as a situation shows up, you decide to respond. It's not a decision, right? Fight, flight, freeze. Those are survival techniques. And that comes from that part of you that wants to survive. And it has nothing to do most of the time by physical, but it can be. I mean, some people have had some rough childhoods, right? Difficult relationships or those kinds of things. But the bottom line you're looking for is what goes on within you that allows the expression now. So now when I go through this list, I say, what's the development? Well, my natural tendency is to absorb the energy. So when Jen and I were talking about this at the very beginning, it's like, I'm a morning person. I actually wake up happy. I'm like, hi, world. Now, my husband, on the other hand, definitely not so much. He's probably woke up about lunchtime. And, so what happens when we have an interaction? So look, my habit is what? Absorption. So if I find myself not feeling good or grouchy or negative, I've absorbed energy because it shifted my mood. So that would be a pretty classic, right, empath. But the description that I used about the cranial sacral or body workers and things, that's more of a physical empath. And so you can absorb it in all kinds of ways. The key piece, which is the third part, is recognizing that it's not yours. That's the piece that most empaths don't do. And that's what I hope I get to convey today. So my tendency, development, is to absorb. My thinking is, I probably did it. It's probably my fault. That was my habitual, my mother said it was so. It was my fault. I don't know how I got to be the keeper of all the problems and the causer of all of them, but that was the deal. And my perception is, well, if mom, who's an authority figure, says it is so, I must not understand the world, right? This is the way. And then my interpretation is, well, if I get perfect grades, or if I'm mama's helper, you see what happens with the survival skills we start performing and doing to see if we can soothe the other person, soothe the environment, whatever it might be. So, questions. Perfect sense? No questions? Wait a minute. There's question people here. Jane and Millie, Karen.
I
Yeah.
want to see where you take this because I have so many questions. I'm like having trouble narrowing them down.
This was what it was when I was doing the topic. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's totally, and that's what I was trying to do, is to really, because really learning happens when you have an experience for yourself. And I can't even tell you, because my background is an occupational therapist, the number of children that I've treated that are a problem. And really what it is they're overstimulated. They have absorbed the energy in the school, the classroom, the teacher, the mom, the bad kid, the good kid, whatever it is, and they're absorbing it and they don't realize it. And then what I would do with them is I would teach them some of, I made up names and games and things like that. And some of the exercises that I'm going to share with you are ones that they helped me make. So, almost 45 years later as an OT, I'm now going to share with you what my kids taught me, right? But that's the kind of thing you want to pay attention. It's like, what's your habit? What caused you to develop this skill set? What's that? Because then you have insight, and then you can start shifting your own behavior. And if it's your child or your partner, or you can be paying attention, and you might be able to be aware of what's going on with them. And in nothing else, you can give them a different type of support. And sometimes that's when we do animal work, right? Sometimes they just need space. And then a shift can happen within them because you allowed that. And it's because of your intuitive awareness. Okay. Is that all making sense to everybody? We're all good? You ready for me to take it home? All right. The last bit here, and then we'll open it up for questions. And okay. So now, how do you take this, what's perceived as a weakness, to strength, to a superpower? The first is the energy recognition, mine or yours. Now remember that quote, energy follows thought. So the first thing that I do, if I think that I might have absorbed energy, no matter who it is, no matter what it is I say to myself, energy basically, is this mine or is it theirs? And then I say, first balancing technique, dismissed. Energy that is not mine, dismissed. And I usually make you can clap, you can use your, let's see. Oh, I have a rattle. I keep it on my desk. But I'm saying to the energy, you're not mine. You don't get to be in this field. You can clap, you can snap your fingers, you can rattle, you can use tinctures, whatever you want to do. That's the first energy recognition. Is this mine or is it theirs? And theirs could be the situation of going to the grocery store. A year ago, even now, you go to the grocery store and a lot of people are pretty stressed. So you can be absorbing that if you're not mindful. So that's the first way of moving it to a strength, is you get your energy field clear. Because when your energy field is clear, you know the answer, no matter what your strength is. And it gives that kind of clarity in your field, allows you to start paying attention to the other senses to develop them. Because awareness, consciousness helps you to develop them. So the next one is the vacuum. And this was one of the most favorites of all the kids. And usually the adults always look at me like, what? But I say, this is the way that I do it. I use my imagination. The sun has a big vacuum cleaner in it. I'm reaching up, I'm bringing down that hose, I'm bringing it down inside of my field, and I'm vacuuming. So it looks like this. And of course, you know, the sound's important because vibration breaks up energy. And then what am I doing with the hose, right? I'm telling the energy that you're being sucked up by my sun vacuum. And you do the inside of your field, making sound behind you. And then you can go through your energy field and do the outside. Just like when you go to the car wash, you can get the inside of your mirror, or your windows, and you can get the outside of the windows. And that sound is really powerful. So if you do it silently for yourself, it's not as effective. Half of it is just having fun, right? So that's another one. I give that out all the time. A lot to the kids, but to the adults too. And many times when I was seeing parent and children, I would ask them both to do it. So it's a great one to help everybody realize, oh, I need my energy cleared. I feel grouchy. I feel irritable because I got energy in me that I've absorbed that's not mine. And then this is my favorite one, needless to say, is walking outside. Nature, she's amazing. She wants you to be balanced. And so the energy that's not yours, every step you take will just dissipate out of your field and be reabsorbed into the nature. So it's a very simple thing to do, 15-minute walk, fantastic. And then the last one here is baking soda. And baking soda is alkalinic. And I'm just going to stop the share so baking soda is alkalinic, and you can do a couple of different ways. You can put it in a bathtub and get into that. You know, so I take a bath, Epsom salt and baking soda, because it clears the energy field. So any debris in your energy field has a charge to it that's acidic, the pH of it. So when you put alkalinic chemical, baking soda, it's going to clear it out, changes the charge, so it can't stay there. So that's a really simple one. But also if you, find, I don't know, maybe you're having lots of meetings or whatever it is, and it's negative, you can actually make a double baggie of baking soda, just a sandwich bag, double bag it, because baking soda, if it goes all over the place, it's not really pretty. And you double bag it, and then you can literally just rub it on your body, right? And it'll clear your field. And the key piece is that you're probably going to want to muscle test or douse when the baking soda is full and complete. And then you just toss it. You don't want to reuse it again because it's full of energetic muck, right? So those are really simple. I would do the baggie, the little, like what is it? The game that you toss, right? With the little pillows. I would have kids and I would say, okay, here's your, this is your bag. I want you to rub it all over your body, then toss it back. And then we would play with that back and forth. So again, just trying to teach them that, how do you feel now? Then we would do the clearing with the baggie. And then how do you feel now at the end of it? Or let's do our vacuuming before we get started. And then, so then we're laughing, making noise and doing all those different things. So there's a lot of other things you can do, but those are like my favorite 4 go-to balancing for empath, specifically for absorption, because that's the thing I find is people absorb. That's my experience. So I want to be able to open that up to questions, because I'm expecting Jane and Millie and Wendy, Karen, all of you guys to have your questions.
Oh yeah, you knew I would. So there's to me, there's a very fine line between knowing it's yours or someone else's.
Uh-huh.
I went through a period of time where I was traveling a lot for business, and I literally had to imagine myself with like a Star Trek shield, because I was getting so bombarded. But so there I could tell what's theirs, what's not. But in an everyday situation, sometimes you're taking, like you were talking about your husband. Where's that fine line where you could say it's really not mine?
I don't always, I would say years ago, I would say I had no idea. But the rule is energy follows thought. So if I say, all right, is this mine or is it theirs, or the situation or the whatever, right? That then I go, okay, does it matter? No. All energy that's not mine, dismissed. So that's the key. Energy follows thought. My thought is all energy that's not mine is dismissed.
Oh, so you don't necessarily tell what it is. You just automatically just get rid of it.
Well, sometimes, right? I mean, I didn't really realize that was why my mood would change in the morning. I mean, it's not something you sit and you think about, right? Oh, I'm hanging out with this guy, been around for almost 20 years. I'm not really thinking about it, but the more aware I got of energy and energy recognition, I was like, oh, this is why I have a mood shift in the morning. It's not my blood sugar, right? But that kind of aha moments, take practice and time. And so it's not like, I wish I could say, oh yeah, I knew. No, it's usually what is the biggest teacher for all of us is we have this experience of difficulty, or we might get sick, or we might, every time this person's around, you don't feel well, right? You have that awareness and you think there's something wrong with me, right? This is going through that steps again of how an empath will try to justify it to be normal, right? And it is normal in a situation to absorb energy so you know what's going on, so you can be safe. That's a normal safety thing that people's systems do. Now, I'm not saying it's right and wrong, but you don't instantly know why.
Okay.
That intellectual understanding comes with those ha-ha moments that we all can have, but we have to find them and cultivate them. And Deepak Chopra says that if enlightenment, consciousness, awareness was easy, there'd be a lot of those kinds of people running around. And he said, unfortunately, there's not, you know? And I get what he means, because it's something you need to consciously work at, to cultivate, to aspire to have, yeah,
Makes
yeah,
sense.
good. Yeah. I can't imagine traveling and being a sensitive person.
Oh my God, it's horrible. It just is so horrible.
Yeah, I going to the grocery is difficult for me. I'm like, yikes. So, yeah. Okay, Jane.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Everybody.
I'm. I find this so fascinating because it's as usual right on time, and I'm looking at it from the perspective of having come through it in dealing with different personalities for someone who's sensitive, not like abusive, but like, strong and loud, or just kind of felt like it was like juggling energy as a kid. And I feel like it became a multi-layer that I developed, where I would
Yeah.
have this really light and shiny top layer, and underneath I was juggling all the time. What do I do? What do I do? And it brought me success in school, brought me success in moving schools, brought me success in friendships, brought me success in business, being in like an emotional, a relationship sales role for 20 years. But what it did was it exhausted me. And until last year, when I found these classes and we came to work from home, I really couldn't do, until I had my son, I guess 2 years ago is when it changed. Like I couldn't do anything but juggle and deal with people. It was just so exhausting. So I was kind of like, thought I was juggling through my whole life, but I was kind of like leading half life for a lot of things, right?
Right.
And then I look at I always looked at it as a strength, but I looking at it from the perspective of being able to manage it and release those energies, and to look at a 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old, who I can watch him. I can see him become overcome with either mine or his father's emotion.
Right.
And yeah, to be able to have these tools to help him clear are just so phenomenal. But in this moment, I'm feeling it so deeply. I don't know where to go with questions. I'm like, I guess my question would be like, is there a way to take the fight, flight, or freeze to help a young empath turn that into something manageable or positive? Or is it really through teaching those tools of release first? Does that make sense?
The first place I would start was within you.
Okay.
When you, and I'm speaking from myself, when I owned my sensitivity, it became not a weakness or a burden. It informs everything I do. And if I can't, I mean, I don't watch TV, and that's okay with me. It may bother other people that are in my world, but they want to hang out with me. This is who I am. So as I am at peace with who I am, right? I teach everyone around me not only about who I am, but also that different people have different experiences, and how do you navigate being in relationship with that? And so that my insides now match my outside, which is what you were describing. Your outside was this made up persona to make everybody happy, to have success, and you were exhausted. And now you get to find out inside who you are. Who am I? And it sounds like you started that with your son, and that sounds lovely. But what you get to do is, as you make it okay, then you mirror and imprint with your child that it's okay to be exactly who you are. You know, my son is just this beautiful, fresh air person. I was the right mother for him because when he went away to college, he decided to do dreadlocks. He has tattoos everywhere. And when he showed up to my family's like horrified because I have a very large family. No one does dreadlocks. No one has any of those things. And so I taught him that. I'm like, you need to realize that not everybody embraces their self-expression. You've definitely done that. I'm cool with it, you know, but you need to be prepared. And it was good that we had this conversation about people being different and it being okay. And that's what makes people interesting and all those things. But, you know, so he is this very unique, kind man. Because
So didn't have to suppress all of that because
right.
you showed him.
Well, he's really good at work relationships and things like that. And then he has other people in his world, you know, that are not accepting of his uniqueness. But he actually is able to navigate that in such a way that, you know, I admire him. I'm like, this is really cool. I wish I was like him when I was his age, you know, that kind of idea. So that's what you can do for your son, is to make it okay to be who he is. Whatever that is, right? Whether he's a really sensitive male, we need a lot of them on the planet, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that he can be a man's man too.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. He can be a man's man and be sensitive. Yeah, I have great big dude friends, you know, and they're big and bulky and they cry at the same point in the movie that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm like, that's my friend. And it makes it okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's being able to accept it within. Sounds like you're there.
You're putting some varnish on some work I've started, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, no, it's good. Very
Thank you.
good. You are very welcome. How about you other guys?
Yeah, I got a question. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thinking back to when I was working and there would be ongoing relationships with people, and there'd be situations where, for whatever reason, a person is considered a threat or just a handy scapegoat, or you're a sensitive person, so you're a good target, but where negativity is being deliberately directed toward you.
Uh-huh.
I can recall, you know, just the need not just to protect, but to push back, to push the energy back. And so I would imagine an empath is, let's say, visibly sensitive and could be attracting situations like that. So, but what I think more recently, what I've found helps is something like prayer. So I guess what I'm asking you is, in addition to the techniques you've told us about,
Yeah.
is there something like a major intervention when it is an ongoing relationship? You're not going to be able to walk out at Target and take a walk. But when, you know, there is a situation that you cannot leave and there is deliberate negative energy being directed to you. I guess, I mean, that relates to this topic because as an empath, it's going to be particularly difficult to handle, and you might attract such situations.
Boy, that is it's a great question. It needs to be broken apart because there are still mean people out there on the planet, period, right? People who are suffering like to share their suffering because they don't know what to do with it, right? It's the energy within them and they don't know what to do with it. So they end up, my words, spewing it, and you receive it, whatever it is, right? So that's one piece of it. Whatever's their walk is their walk, right? So that's my first kind of, is you want to separate what's theirs and what's yours. So the first part is mean people still live on the planet. People are suffering. They share their suffering. But you have a choice of how you want to participate. And you were saying, Shannon, that's a really good way of saying it, is prayer is sometimes like if you go through, say, a cashier or whatever, and they're having a really tough time, one of the things that I say to them is, I'm sorry you're having a bad day. I offer them understanding so that they're having a bad day, but I don't have to participate in the bad day. I can participate where I'm at, which is, I'm sorry you're having a bad day. And many times that's enough to help them shift, right? So it's like really separating them, the situation, like you said, at Target, just separating that and letting that be what it is, right? Now you get back to that checklist that I gave in part 2. What's your habit? So absorption, that's what the topic is, right? So then the next one is looking at what are you thinking? Do you see yourself as the victim of these people? Because if that's the thinking, you're absolutely going to be the victim, right? Energy follows thought. So you want to just look at what are you thinking, because that's what's going to tell the energy what you want to do with it. That's a really important thing to really consider within you. Do I really believe that it's my fault? Or do I really believe that they're picking on me, that I'm a victim? And that's really your truth. No judgment. We all have our things, right? Okay. And then your perception of the situation. If your perception is that you're always being picked on, right? Then when somebody is having a bad day, you're going to perceive it, taking it personal instead of it just being about them. So again, you just kind of go through and take a look at the energy, because ultimately it's all fine and dandy, whatever's going on with them. But the bottom line is it's really all about you, right? You need to be taking care of you. Looks like the sun came out and I can see that. Let me just, sorry guys. I'll get my block up. There we go. That'll definitely make it better. See? Whew. Okay.
Can I share something real quick?
Let me make sure, Shannon, am I on the right track for you?
Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm just recalling, to get the thought follows action.
No thought, energy follows thought.
Following thought. It's really difficult to get the thought strong enough when the energy is very strong. When what is coming at you can seem to feel overwhelming.
Right.
And
But what's underlying the absorption and that overwhelming is whatever that thinking is about that energy. Because I can tell you the strongest energy on the planet, I can say this too, is there's nothing stronger than a woman. Don't mess with my people. Don't mess with my animals. Don't mess with my family, right? And in the wild, nothing more vicious than a mother animal. She will protect her babies, period. Okay. So Shannon, just kind of sit with that a little bit. I want to make sure I go up here to Wendy, and then if you feel like you need more information, let's talk it more. Okay.
Thank you, dear.
Thanks for waiting, Wendy.
Yeah, I just wanted to, makes me think about, is it Sharon? Is that right?
Shannon.
Shannon. I just in my life experience, really being from that place of an allower and standing in your own power, and we can't control other people, but just allowing them to experience life and express that how they have to, but it's not going to impress anything upon me. They can do, when my significant other is real angry, and if he, I'm an allower. I'm gonna let him do that, but I'm not going to let that affect my feelings at this time, because I know that's his deal. So whether that's I go to another room, or maybe I make a funny joke to myself, or something to where I can just stand in my own energy.
Mm-hmm. Hold steady.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like if you're driving a boat, you have the horizon. You have to stay in alignment to the horizon. Your horizon is your alignment.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I thank you guys. I'm just really glad I'm retired, because I've been a boss and I've had bosses, and I've had, really, really strong adversarial situations to deal with. I thank you very much, and I'm very appreciative of your thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. Yeah. And here's the catch to the whole thing. No one answer, because of that idea of how it developed, what you're thinking, your perception, and your interpretation. And you put all that together, and in it walks in, this person called Cindy, or this person that calls Shannon or Wendy, or right? Because each one of us here are different. And all those energies that come together, we have a different expression. And what we try to do, especially like in the Magic Monday concept for me, is I try to share what I know, and then we have this beautiful discussion, and we all go away with our nugget of whatever that is. Just the nugget, one nugget, then we get to ponder that until the next Monday, of course.
Cindy, I have a quick question. How much baking soda did you put in the bathtub?
I usually do a cup.
Okay.
So I have a half cup measure. So, I do two. I always joke about it. Is it a 2 cup-er day? 1 cup-er day? Right? So I would muscle test it, or energy, like that, because some days you just need a little extra help, right?
Oh.
Yeah. Any other questions? Hey, Karen.
I don't have a question, but I just have a comment, and that is, this is just so awesome.
It's fun.
I know, it's just so beautiful, though, how you are reminding us, helping us to see these categories, kind of spelling it out pretty clearly here, reminding us to come back into alignment, and know thyself, like know myself. Today I was walking around, I don't even know what happened. Maybe it was being online with the RMV. I don't know what it was. All of a sudden I went to mail a letter and I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm in such a bad mood, right? So I have to stop and just ask, wait a second. It's the piece around you said about dismiss. What's mine? What's not mine here? But anytime I kind of like veer off, like I'm not in balance. So what I've just tried to do is to just kind of like check in with myself a lot. Say, how am I doing? Where am I? Am I on? Am I off? Am I happy? Am I wet? So I just think it's beautiful. These are beautiful teachings, and there's so many different things that we can do to clear ourselves. And
Right.
great.
Yeah. Those 3 or 4 there are a drop in the bucket. Like Shannon added to it is you can do some form of prayer. Ho'oponopono's great. Anything to dissipate and get the more clarity you have within you, the more that empathic tendency is a superpower. I mean, it's what I do now, right? I'm doing all virtual work. I'm working with these people, I'm working with animals, and I download that information, absorb whatever I need to absorb, and dismiss it in seconds.
Yeah.
Because it works.
Because if you're in here, if I'm in here with me, there's a lot more of me to know who I am, like to experience the different ways that you work through the world or walk through the world.
Exactly. And then, how do you discover who you are if you don't go inside, right? So, yeah. So to all my favorite empaths of the day, thank you for today. It was lovely.
Thank you, Cindy.
I'll send
Thank
out
you.
the little handout, and I appreciate all of this. Okay. Okay. See you next week.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good stuff.
Awesome.
You're a rock star.